One of the biggest conversations that was in the tech world in 2023 and even right now is artificial intelligence and just how it's disrupting nearly or virtually every other industry we know today. Today, you don't need to have us news anchors and reporters in studio to bring to you news. You can easily do that by feeding it into artificial intelligence tools and systems to be able to give you a full bulletin and so much more. But today, particularly, we are focusing on the AI disruption in advertising. This and so much more on TECHOVER, the only show in East Africa that discusses all matters technology. My name is Brian Jojotieno. Welcome. You're right on time for your tech feed. First off, this is what happened in the Tech Week, just in case you missed it. Here then is the tech news of the week. Uganda-based motorcycle ride-hailing and delivery company SafeBoda is set to resume operations in Kenya next month, 3 years after it shut down its operations in the country. SafeBoda closed its operations in Kenya in November 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic to focus on its successful operations in Uganda. The company had taken a major hit after the pandemic put transportation to a near halt due to movement restrictions, including the months-long dusk to dawn curfew. Pesalink has announced that it will soon have a merchant payment option to rival Safaricom's Lipa na M-Pesa. The news comes after Safaricom's customers expressed concerns due to the over-reliance on the M-Pesa feature, which has been suffering periodic outages in the recent past. At the point of sale, a buyer will not need to transfer funds from a bank account to a mobile money account. Buyers will be able to pay sellers straight from their bank accounts. All public service vehicles, PSVs, insured by Direct Line Assurance will have to switch to cashless fare platforms, including M-Pesa, as the insurer moves to curb fraudulent claims coming from injuries and deaths to passengers. Direct Line, which has the largest share of PSV insurance business, has issued a circular to all operators of matatus it has insured to make the shift effective 1st of February, in a move that also offers a revenue boost for banks and telcos that support cashless payments. The insurer says it has developed a passenger manifest system that will be used when verifying third-party claims. The manifest will be used to offer evidence that people making claims related to injuries or death were indeed in the vehicles involved in the accidents. Uber reported a 71.3% increase in airport trips in August 2023 as riders jetted off to destinations near and far. The demand for business trips on Uber for Business saw a 10.96% year-on-year increase, with 9 a.m. being the most popular time for business trips and 5 p.m. emerging as the most popular time for day trips requests. Uber Eats data revealed that American and African cuisines were the most popular, with vegetable spring rolls, ugali and steamed rice being the most requested side dishes. The most ordered meals on Uber Eats in 2023 were KFC's Streetwise 2 and 3, followed by the full Java House breakfast, according to the data. The most common times for delivery orders were 7 p.m., 6 p.m. and 1 p.m. Very well. Now you're up to speed with what happened in the tech world. Time now for that discussion about artificial intelligence and the disruption it's causing in the advertising sector. I'm here with two communication experts, Adam Ukubi and Stanley Onyango. Join me. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Very well. Both of you are self-confessed enthusiasts of technology. So I gather you are well versed with the issue about artificial intelligence. But for the person who's hearing this perhaps for the very first time, Stanley, how would you break it down to them to understand artificial intelligence from the very basics?
So to boil it down, artificial intelligence is actually computers trying to simulate human intelligence. Mm-hmm. So it's by learning and acting on their own to accomplish certain tasks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So by that you can categorize them by the capabilities. So there is narrow AI that is very specific, that I think most of us, actually the whole world is versed to. And the next one is it's about general AI that is now trying to simulate exactly what a human being can do. So it's multi-layered and can do basically what every other human can do on an intellectual, and some might say also on the physical plane. And now the one that is, I'd like to say it's the farthest one, the aspirational one, is superintelligence, AI superintelligence that has surpassed human intelligence. Yes.
Adam, let me come to you now. For somebody who perhaps thinks that AI is so far-fetched for them, there are very simple interactions with AI that we face on a daily basis. For somebody who wants a crash course or an introduction to AI, how would you tell them that this is something you interact with and this is actually AI assisted? How would you make them make it relatable to them? What is one of those things that they use that is AI assisted but they don't notice?
So I would like to use an example where people probably just go to Google. If you want to find out information about something, you probably Google how to make chapatis on Google. So when it comes to AI, a lot of people are using it on their day-to-day activities, especially in terms of their work areas. So this is you probably will use AI to understand strategies. If you want to incorporate a strategy in your organization, you'd probably go and ask AI, I would like to do ABCD for my organization. How am I supposed to go about it? So I'll differentiate it in that way, in that if somebody has to go to Google, then it's more of just finding out what something is. But when they go to AI, it's sort of like a direction on how to go about it.
Great. Stan, one of the last ones as we come towards the end of this introductory session, or rather crash course into AI. So people fear that artificial intelligence is here to take their jobs and it's here to to render them redundant and such kind of a thing. How true is that?
AI is something that will not take your job, but a person using AI will. AI makes people at this point extremely productive. Especially in advertising right now. Generative AI is all the buzz. Now you see images being created, you see text, you see captions being created, which were over the past years
unheard of,
and they were like human jobs. But right now, a person who is using AI can generate an image, can generate a poster, can generate cool Twitter caption that is very captivating, and so it's just up to us to adapt, and it's a wave that I feel that has come, and we have to ride it.
We have to ride it.
Yes.
That's why we're here. Ada, let me come back to you. So we are seeing a lot of companies, blue chip companies no less, using generative AI to bring up images for advertising, captions, messaging, and all that. As a marketing professional, how do you reconcile that?
I think I would agree with what he just said, that it's something that is here to stay. So it's something that we need to adapt. It's not something that we need to fight. So I will say that number one, there are things that AI can do that a human being is likely to do better. You know? So even when we use AI to generate content, if this is generated by human beings, there's a little bit more authenticity and also relatability. For instance, if I see an image that has Brian on it, I'm likely to relate to it and even be encouraged to consume whatever services or products that are being advertised, as opposed to something that I cannot relate with. The other thing is that we can also use AI because it will offer consistency in terms of the kind of content that is being generated, so that our audience, our target audience, is likely to hear the same thing consistently in a different way. That way there is a lot of brand retention in your services and products, assuming you're advertising something. Use of AI also risks misinterpretation sometimes, you know. You can use AI to talk about something, and your audience, your target audience, might misinterpret it. This is a conversation that we've had previously, that we are seeing some advertisements that are likely to be advertising a paper, and you interpret it as a pen. So you're not so sure what is being advertised in this particular instance. And then AI can also use, because there's a lot of data that is being generated through AI, you can use that for data-driven messaging so that you're giving specific audience a specific amount of information that they actually need. There's also the issue of cultural sensitivity. AI does not really understand the different cultures that we have in different societies. So there's a sort of advertisement that you might advertise in Kenya that might not go well with Kenyans, but if you do the same advertisement in Tanzania, it is okay. So I'm not so sure if this is something that AI can really differentiate and say, if you ask AI, please generate content for Tanzania, they know that this particular information suits, Tanzania. And then there's also the issue of cost effectiveness and efficiency. If AI can also help us to advertise things while also saving on costs, as opposed to just doing things the way we've been doing traditionally.
Still staying with the issue of influencers, actors, and the people we know to be on the billboard to be selling us whatever consumables we use. Do you think they stand to lose gigs, Ada?
Well, I don't think so. Because there's a reason why they are called influencers in the first place. These are people that our consumers are related to, These are people that when we look at them, probably they are people we've lived with in the same estates, they're people we've gone to school with. So these are people that are likely to influence our day-to-day activities. So number one, when we use influencers for advertisement, it's easier for them to give us personalized experiences. So if I'm advertising a soap, for example, I will give an influencer the soap, they can use it, and then they can give us feedback and say, I have used this soap and this is what I have learned so far, or this is what, exactly. As opposed to AI, so I'm just thinking that we are not able to have that kind of collaboration with AI, but influencers can now use AI to develop strategies for themselves, so that now they're also taking advantage of this particular, disruption to improve on themselves. The other thing I would also talk about is that there's a lot of engagement that takes place when we use influencers, especially with our consumers. So if an influencer is, let's say, influencing a product, they can have engagement with our desired audience. Somebody can send a DM and ask, tell us more about ABCD, things like that. When it comes to AI-generated content and things like that, I'm not sure if people can have that sort of conversations with the influencers. Influencers will create relatable content. So brands should not take advantage of AI alone without collaborating with influencers and forgetting the traditional marketing as well. There should be a lot of balance between the two. Brands can use AI if they feel they want to probably save on costs that they might, probably they feel an influencer is too expensive. However, there's a line that should be drawn in between where there's a balance, so we don't lose the relatable aspect of a brand.
Something to add, Stan?
So something to add about that is, it's another good thing about creating images like text to images, where you can put text and it gives you an image. So let's say a cat flying over KICC. You can get an image quite specific. Quite specific. Image.
What an example.
Quite specific an image about that. But then again, we should take a bit more time in designing better prompts.
You touched on cost cutting as a mechanism of managing your marketing costs. Again, you're a marketing professional. So we are seeing a place where companies are not going into creating all these rigs and contracting an agency to reserve a whole street in filming this advert or these commercials for a company. They just sit down and say, we are using this image like Stan has just illustrated here. We are going into an AI tool and generating an image. I know you've touched on the effectiveness of this, but just how can companies strike that balance? Because I've seen a couple of companies in Kenya that have used a blend of both, a blended way of AI and of course the normal advertising as we know it, striking that balance and achieving the effectiveness they want.
So, like you mentioned, when it comes to cost, effectiveness and efficiency, most companies will look at that first, even before they look at the aspect of advertising a product. And traditionally, we've seen even just putting up a billboard has been quote-unquote expensive, depending on which organization you work for. Sometimes we've seen organizations that can buy the entire street and put up billboards, and others cannot afford to put up a billboard based on their, financial...
I'm thinking about politicians while you're saying that. Go on.
Financial constraints, yeah? So I think organizations need to take a step back and understand, first of all, their strategies and see, am I able to afford advertising traditionally above the line? Can I come here and pay Branji to advertise for me, my organization, on this show?
Yeah.
Can I afford to put up a billboard? Can I afford to, run an entire ad on TV? If not, then what strategies can I put in place that will be effective and yet save on costs? So number one, we've spoken about influencer marketing. So I would say when it comes to social media marketing, digital marketing, people are embracing AI fully. It's like the AI can create the entire strategy for you.
Yeah.
However, how do we want to maximize on the effectiveness when it comes to our target audience? So for me, I think it's a matter of strategies. It's a matter of coming up with a strategy and what is the goal of this particular strategy that we're coming up with. So sometimes there's the high risk and high returns sort of thing. But then again, there's also the part where you can save on cost and maximize on something else. So if we can use AI generated images and do social media advertisements and spend less and reach a larger audience, why not? And if we have the money, if we've been able to advertise and we've generated revenue, then why not go out and now use influencers fully to advertise a specific brand? So I think companies can strike a balance, but this is just dependent on the strategies that they're putting in place and the objectives they would want to achieve.
Top of mind, Stan, do you know of companies that perhaps have come up with best marketing campaigns out of AI? Top of mind.
Top of mind?
Yeah, you don't have to mention the name of the company or just say you've seen an advert for something like this.
I've seen an advert for a leading telco in Kenya that has used AI-generated images and video in its campaigns, and it has won awards. It's captivating, and I like to say scientifically it's cool.
Yeah. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to get it right with traditional.
Yes.
I think what they've done is get a good merger of both.
Okay.
Get the more traditional approach and the very, very new AI-driven text and image generation that has actually, I think, helped them in many ways. Yeah.
So, way forward, I know influencers, advertisers, agencies, none of them can work without artificial intelligence. Of course, we've already debunked the fact that AI is here to take jobs. That's not entirely true.
No.
That's not true. So what's the way forward? Let me start with you, Ada.
So like I said initially, I think we need to use AI to improve on the things that we have been doing before. So we cannot negate the fact that technology is here to stay.
Yeah.
And the more we grow, the more technology gets even better and fancier. So we need to take advantage of technology to improve our ideas, improve on our strategies, and also just look at it from a perspective of social development, social improvement, so that we are also not losing our characters. As we focus on AI, we still maintain the humane aspect of who we are, even in terms of advertising. We still maintain the emotional intelligence when it comes to advertising. So we are not just being rigid and focusing on what AI generates, but we are also looking at what is the cultural aspect of it. How sensitive are we to the people to the societies within which we live in? So yeah.
Amazing. We can't live without AI, Stan. How do we adapt? How do we live with it?
So one good thing that we've done and you can do to be a good, let's use the most consumed one, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
creator, let's say, is to develop good, like high quality prompts. So instead of saying, how do I bake a cake? You'd like to give it more context and state the question clearly. Again,
how do I bake a black forest cake? Something of the sort.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you give it more context. So it's, again, boiling it down to two things, asking better questions and doing more concise, direct
Prompts.
summaries, yes.
Great.
Yes.
I know of lawyers who are drafting agreements and
Oh, wow.
demand letters out of ChatGPT.
Wow. Yeah.
Lady, gentlemen, thank you so much for making time for us on TECHOVER and for giving us this value. And there you are. If you're an influencer, you should not fear for your job. They've said you don't necessarily have to fear that all those Gen AI images are just here to augment what you're already doing, and so you just need to adapt. We've been speaking to Adam Okubi and Stanley Onyango, who are both communications, advertising, and tech enthusiasts. And that's where we wrap up for the first segment of the show. Thank you so much. We will be back after the short break. Don't go too far. Welcome back. You're watching TECHOVER, the show that discusses all things technology. Time now to know the innovator of the week. Here then is your segment for the startup of the week.
Online ride-hailing taxi apps are not new to Kenya. By 2023, the National Transport and Safety Authority (NTSA) reported 14 licensed ride-hailing applications actively operating in the Kenyan market, with Uber and Bolt as the big players. Both are foreign. Kenyan innovators have taken competition to their doorstep, offering discounts to riders and clients while advancing cooperative driver rewards and commissions. The reality is commissions and driver take-homes are a real challenge, as recently witnessed in the behavior of drivers asking riders to go offline, potentially posing danger to the clients. Also, some go to the extent of demanding additional fares than quoted on the applications for the trips. These challenges inspired Ndai Africa founder Amedi Mwangi to develop a model that allows drivers to pay for the taxis while they drive and make a living.
We are playing the ball of financial inclusion. What we're doing, we are an enabler to the mobility entrepreneurs, or rather the taxi drivers, who are unable to access vehicles to be able to drive them and own them. Because essentially what we do, we buy the vehicles for the online taxi drivers. So we're enabling them to own these vehicles at the very end of the contract term. And also we don't ask for upfront deposits or any processing fees. But you see what used to happen, or what happens basically, is the driver never owns the vehicle. So what we do is we tell the driver, now we are going to help you own a vehicle. Whatever the amount you're paying your partner, come to Ndai, we are going to, you pay the same amount, and at the end of the day, at the end of the 3 to 4 years, this vehicle is going to be yours.
One such driver who's benefited off this lease-to-own model is Leonard Kigo, who has plied this trade since 2020 at Ndai Africa's inception.
Nimefanya since 2020 up to the end of 2023, so that's roughly around 3 years. Since I started, haikukuwa rahisi because I was unlucky sababu tulipatwa na COVID just at the start of the year. But tumepambana tu, though it has not been easy, lakini tumeendelea tu vizuri. And kuliko kushinda una drive magari za watu, and then disappointment za kukuitisha gari every other time. So at least here you are comfortable, you get to be your own boss.
With the reality of a tough business environment, financial institutions have been reporting an increase in repossession of taxis and other commercial vehicles. So we sought to understand the mitigation plan for the high exposure to default by drivers Ndai Africa puts itself in by this lease-to-own model.
When you look at the conventional banking institution or lending institution, it's very difficult for them to access credit. So we've been able to make it very easy for them to access this credit. And at the end of the day, get an employment, and at the end of the day, get a livelihood, So our impact we are measuring in terms of the jobs we've been able to create, direct jobs, and many indirect jobs, the livelihoods we've been able to support, the families which are able to handle decent livelihoods from this kind of arrangement. I would say the biggest challenge we are facing is the fact that we have a huge wait list of drivers which have been able to vet and qualify. Talking numbers, we have more than 2,200 drivers who are on our waiting list. And we're looking for these funds.
The ability of digital platforms to create jobs is tied directly to the size of the market and the platform is able to serve. Kenya, like many African markets, is marked by low average incomes and high inequality. Ride-hailing firms grew the market for private taxis by dramatically cutting prices. That growth has limits. Based on data from Uber and questions we've raised, estimates are that 25% of Nairobians have used a ride-hailing service and only 11% do so regularly. Ndai Africa hopes to tap into the growing necessity for convenience in transport to scale the markets. And that's our startup of the week.
Very well then, that's our innovator of the week right there. And one last segment before we close the show. Being a data privacy week, we are actually focusing more on data privacy, and this tech tip is equally around that. So here then is the tech tip of the week.
Hi, my name is Duncan, and this week we are going to be covering how you can keep your Instagram account safe and keep your data secure. There have been quite a few cases of Instagram accounts being hacked, so here are some tips on how you can keep yours safe. The first method is go to your Instagram, click on the three icons at the top, click Settings, go to Account Center, click Password and Security, then click Two-Factor Authentication. Click your Instagram account, and then you're going to see three options on how you can turn on Two-Factor Authentication. For example, you can click Text Message, then click Next, and if you have not added a phone number, you can add it right here. And now whenever you try to log into your Instagram account, a code will always be sent to your phone number for you to be able to log in. Another thing is your account might actually be logged into very many devices and you don't know, and this is risky because somebody can access your data. So you can fix this by going to Account Center, go to Password and Security, and then at the bottom you're going to see where you're logged in. Click that, then click your Instagram account, and right here you're going to see all the devices that are logged into your Instagram account. So if you see any that you don't recognize, click on it, and then click Logout and confirm it. And make sure that you only leave the devices that you actually trust. That's it for this week, and see you in the next one.
Very well, I think that's a fair point to leave it at. We've known the tech news of the week, we've discussed the role of AI in disrupting advertising and marketing, we've also known the tech tip of the week, and most importantly, the startup of the week. Fair point to leave it at. My name is Brian Jojotieno, always great hosting you on TakeOver. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one, and may tech live forever.